Hello and welcome back to the Military Time. We begin tonight with breaking news from Eastern Europe, where a dramatic escalation has shaken the geopolitical landscape. Ukrainian drones have reportedly struck a location closely tied to Vladimir Putin, a luxurious palace with an estimated value of $5 billion. The complex, often referred to as Putin's palace, has long been a symbol of the Russian president's alleged opulence and power. But this time it became the dramatic centerpiece of a high-risk Ukrainian operation that has sent shockwaves around the world. This attack is more than just a military strike. It's a message, a warning, and perhaps a shift in the psychological warfare that has shaped this conflict for nearly 3 years. We've been following developments minute by minute, and tonight we bring you exclusive insights, analysis, and updates on what actually happened, why this location was chosen, and what this could mean for the future of the war in Ukraine. First, let's set the scene. The so-called Putin's Palace is a sprawling coastal estate situated along the Black Sea, covering over 168 acres and featuring gilded halls, underground bunkers, private theaters, and even a secret tunnel leading directly to the beach. This mansion has been called Russia's most extravagant secret. Although the Kremlin has denied that Putin owns the property, multiple investigative reports, including those by Alexei Navalny's team, have linked the palace directly to Putin and higher-ranking oligarchs loyal to him. Now, the footage circulating online shows smoke rising from the area, with eyewitnesses reporting loud explosions heard late in the night. At least 3 Ukrainian drones, identified as modified long-range models capable of bypassing Russia's sophisticated air defenses, were spotted near the complex. According to early reports, these drones managed to land direct hits on what appears to be auxiliary infrastructure, several outbuildings believed to house communications equipment and security hubs. Sources suggest the attack was not aimed directly at occupying or destroying the palace itself, but rather at sending a chilling message: nowhere in Russia is off limits. Ukrainian military officials have not officially claimed responsibility, but a senior Ukrainian defense advisor hinted at what he called a necessary demonstration of reach and resolve. He said, quote, "There are no sacred places for invaders, not anymore." Meanwhile, Russia's reaction was swift and telling. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov dismissed the reports, calling them fabricated propaganda. Yet, moments after his statement, Russian air defense systems across Crimea and southern Russia were put on high alert, and several videos emerged showing frantic movements of security personnel near the palace. Notably, Putin was not at the palace at the time of the strike, but sources say the shockwaves from this attack have reached Moscow. So, how did Ukraine manage to undertake such a risky operation at the heart of Russian territory? Experts believe this was made possible by a combination of intelligence breakthroughs, technological innovation, and tactical audacity. Ukraine has been receiving international support in the form of drone technology and reconnaissance systems, and has also been rapidly adapting commercial drones into sophisticated military assets. Over the past year, Ukraine has shown a growing capability to strike deep into Russian territory, hitting airfields, oil depots, and logistics hubs. But a symbol like Putin's palace, that's a new level. Military analyst Olaf Stepanenko tells us that this was likely more psychological than strategic. The palace is not just bricks and marble. It represents power, corruption, and pride. Hitting it sends a message directly to the Kremlin and its elite: you're vulnerable, and your symbols are not safe, and the psychological impact is already visible. Within hours of the attack, Russian state media abruptly shifted focus to talk of escalation and the need for stronger internal defense systems, while some hardline commentators even demanded retaliatory strikes on Kiev. But the Kremlin is treading carefully, knowing that too much public emphasis on this strike could expose the very narrative they've tried to deny for years, that Putin may indeed own this palace. In that it is now a target, let's take a step back and understand what this palace has meant to the Russian people. For years, it's been shrouded in secrecy, a symbol of excess in a nation where millions still struggle under economic hardship. When Navalny's documentary exposed the palace in 2021, showing detailed drone footage and architectural plans, it sparked widespread unrest. Thousands took to the streets demanding accountability, asking why their leader would hide in such luxury while the average Russian suffers. Now, years later, that very symbol has come under fire, not from protesters, but from Ukrainian drones. The timing of this strike is also deeply significant. Just days ago, Putin launched a renewed offensive in Ukraine's east, attempting to regain territory after months of stagnant progress. Ukraine's bold move serves not only as retaliation, but as a strategic counterstroke. You come for our cities, we'll come for your strongholds. But what happens now? Experts say this incident could escalate tensions to a dangerous new level. Russia has already warned of severe consequences for what they're calling a direct attack on Russian sovereignty. Some commentators are even calling for Russia to reconsider the use of tactical nuclear options, a threat that has been looming large ever since the start of the conflict. The international community is watching closely. NATO leaders have convened emergency consultations, and U.S. military officials have quietly confirmed that they are monitoring the situation for any sign of Russian strategic movement, especially around its nuclear forces. Meanwhile, Ukraine's allies, particularly the UK, Poland, and the Baltic states, have quietly praised this operation as a strategic message to Russia's elite. For ordinary Russians, though, this creates a new dimension of fear and uncertainty. Until now, the war was a distant event for many, something happening across the border. Now, the war has literally landed at the gates of Putin's palatial estate, and that sends a very personal, very unsettling reminder. This war is no longer someone else's problem. Here's where things get even more interesting. Satellite imagery from the European Space Agency confirms that there was indeed an explosion at the palace site. Thermal scans show significant heat signatures on parts of the property shortly after midnight, consistent with a drone strike or incendiary impact. Meanwhile, intercepted radio communications from Russian security forces indicate signs of panic and confusion, with one voice saying, "The system failed. Repeat, we did not detect until impact." So, was this a failure of Russian defense, or a success of Ukrainian stealth? Perhaps both. What's clear is this: Ukraine has now crossed a new threshold in its asymmetrical campaign against its far stronger adversary. The war is no longer just about defending territory, it's also about attacking symbols of power. And if this palace strike is any indication, Ukraine is willing to take the fight directly to the sources of that power. As of this evening, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has given a cryptic statement. Ukraine will not be intimidated. We know our enemy, we know his weaknesses, and we know where to strike. Though he did not explicitly reference the incident, many believe this is a nod to the palace attack. So where does this leave us? We are now watching a war evolve in a way few anticipated. What began as a ground conflict over territory has now become a battle of symbols, of narratives, of psychological warfare. And tonight, one of those symbols has been shaken. Will Putin retaliate? Will Ukraine escalate further? And crucially, what does this mean for the rest of the world? We'll keep you updated with every new development as this story unfolds. For now, one thing is clear. This war is far from over, and the stakes have never been higher. Stay with us as we continue to bring you in-depth coverage, expert analysis, and exclusive reports from the front lines of this global conflict. Thank you for watching. This has been Military Time. Stay safe, stay informed, and good night.